All right. WSAN Radio, it is now 7:30. It is time for the Impact Hour with our very own Joseph Lee. Joseph, how you doing this morning?
Doing good this morning, Ron. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, the news has been going around, and I'm out of town now. I'm in Waco, Texas at our Holy Convocation here. So I'm here
Okay.
all week taking pictures, but I definitely had to get you on because your fan base is want to know when you're going to be back on again.
Wow. I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah.
If they want to send us some questions, tell them, maybe I'm telling them now, please feel free to start sending some questions in, and we'll start fielding those questions.
Okay, sounds good. Now, things had changed dramatically in the past 24 hours because I was held up, but I got back to the hotel room last night. I cut on the news. I can't believe all the bombshells that's coming down for the January 6th. People who didn't want to talk in the beginning, now they want to talk. And it's kind of, from what I gather, it's too late now. You should have done that before this got this far. So it looks like everybody's shaking in their boots because some things have been revealed that nobody did know. The temper tampers, the throwing plates against the wall, everything is unraveling right now. And I think it's going to continue to unravel until we see people in handcuffs. That's what I want to see. Don't talk about it, be about it. So that's what I seen yesterday. So let me get your thoughts on it.
I think what I like about, everything that's playing out is all the detail, because we knew some crazy stuff was going on just because of what we saw that made it to the public. But now we're starting to see how crazy things were, number one, and what was going on. Also, some things kind of stood out to me that while a lot of this was going on beforehand, I think he said something about the Oval Office doors were open, and he was listening to the crowd get ramped up. And it was so loud, the music they were saying it was shaking the Oval Office. So when they kind of go through these timeline of things that were going on, I love it because it shows the mindset and the intent. And in court, I threw a couple words around. There's this thing of plausible deniability, meaning that, you kind of didn't know this was going on, and maybe you could kind of play it off like you didn't understand the extent of the crime. But I think with everything that's coming out, Ms. Hutchison's testimony, the Secret Service agent and other agents that have coming out now, just everything that's going on, the timing of the tweet, I think they're establishing a pretty powerful case towards. And then the amazing part is his speech right before everybody marched over to the Capitol. I think that, to me, is the bombshell. They keep talking about other videotapes and other things. Look, I think that what Donald Trump did was in plain sight. It's now, are you wise enough to see it and to move past the delusional mindset? And I think they showed two people yesterday, the Oath Keeper guy and the one that wasn't a part of the Oath Keeper, was just, kind of swept up, as he said in his own words, swept up in the rhetoric of, what was going on. The blinders came off of them, right?
Yeah.
That was amazing that they said, okay, I realize now what I'm embracing, right? So is the country going to have that watershed moment? Are they going to have to be charged with something? Are they going to have something more severe happen? Because it's pretty clear that, the president knew, what was going on at the time. President Trump, that is, knew what was going on and helped to inspire it, helped to send the rally cry there. And when the other damning testimony was when they said that they notified them that there's people with weapons going towards the Capitol. He could have started. When did he intervene? Toward the end, after all the things after he sat back and watched the carnage, after he assaulted a Secret Service agent for not taking him to the spot where he could watch, where he, riled up the crowd and sent the old-fashioned lynch mob to the Capitol. I mean, it had all the makings of a doggone lynching, a Klan rally. That's what it really seemed like, right?
Yeah.
So, but the amazing thing is, and I think what people are looking at is, he's been able to get away with so much. And the elephant in the room is he going to be able to pull this off again? And but this time, what will the Justice Department do? When they pass this on, and I think this is where they're headed, I think they're making a very strong case that the president, a lot of people that were in his cabinet or in his circle, including Steve Bannon, who I think they're going to establish is the link between him and the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. And that was a very much a part of his base that he was trying to court. And then the tweet said it best, hey, show up to DC, it's going to be wild. Then he gets them there and he says, you got to take your country by force. I mean, is that not what came out of his mouth?
Basically,
what else could
yes.
he be talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What else could he didn't say go down there and peacefully protest. He didn't go down there and let your voice be heard. He said, take by force, your country by force. I mean, now it's just a matter of, are we going to stand for it? I think that's the watershed moment we're at. Are we going to stand for this man who took an oath of office that was supposed to, as I forget the gentleman's name, who's charging the investigation, or at least seems like he's the one that's running it, said the oath of office required him to peacefully transition power and to protect the institution that he actually sent people to go and attack. Are we going to hold him accountable for that? And I hate to say it, if this country does not hold him accountable, the justice system is going to be made to be a mockery internationally.
But not only him, all the ones who wanted pardons that he didn't give to. There's some senators, there's some congressmen, they were all in cahoots with this. And if you notice that the ones who had the biggest mouth back then are the ones that are quiet right now. They're not saying a word.
Yeah, and watch, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think when Bannon testifies, it's going to be a whole bunch of I plead the fifth, just like the other guy that, came on. They're going to be pleading the fifth. And that's going to tell everything. Because when you plead the fifth, what does it say? I can't say anything or I might incriminate myself. So that's what the fifth stands for.
Yeah.
So, and we already had one guy, he didn't say I plead the fifth. Every time they asked him a question, he would just be like, fifth. I was just like,
Yeah, I know.
You got, doggone well, what's going on and how, but I think, and I've said this a long time ago, there's going to be something minor that Trump didn't expect is going to be the thing that unravels this whole thing for him. And I think Ms. Hutchinson, Sarah Hutchinson, I believe is her name, is going to be that person that started that thing, because things shifted after that.
Yeah, it did. It shifted a lot.
Things shifted after that. Now it was like, in the Wiz, where you pull the curtain away from the Wiz and you see the mad person, that was working the, working all the equipment to be this powerful Oz. That was that moment, because we saw the guy now he's throwing glasses, trying to choke Secret Service agent, telling him he's the president of the United States. Doesn't even understand the scope of his job, but he did understand the scope of what he was trying to do, which was stay in power, which was outside of what any president in the history of this United States has done.
Dictatorship. That's what he's looking for. When you said
authoritarian, authoritarian style government. I mean, that's what he wanted to take this country to.
Yeah.
And exclude so I guess that was fit that demographic that served him. But my part is amazing. It's amazing to me how people don't see how he wasn't really serving them anyway. How many of those people in January 6th got a pardon? How many of those people, how, you know, he could have easily start trying to pardon all the people that participated in the January 6th, you know, situation.
Yeah.
But guess what? He couldn't. He couldn't set that in motion because it was never his intent. You know, he's playing folks. And the only person he's concerned about is Donald Trump. That fits his psychological profile, a narcissistic, delusional person. You can go on Google, look it up. You don't have to go to this DSM-5. Look it up and see what a delusional, narcissistic person is. If you don't see the previous president, I don't know what you're looking at.
When you said it's going to be something little that takes him down, I go back when they couldn't get nothing on Al Capone. They tried everything and they end up with tax evasion. They couldn't get him on racketeering or anything else, but they got him on tax evasion. This may come down to that too. You know,
we got that situation in New York, right? That hasn't even bubbled up to the surface. We know that there's, and he's got some people that are pretty pissed off in these places like Georgia. The governor of Georgia, I think, said, look, you know, she even put it out there. No, charges are not off the table. You know, if there's something they can charge him with, which I think there most likely will be. I don't know how you call down to a state and say exactly the number of votes you need to find and there not be a crime committed. I think there's some things that are bubbling up that in combination, it's a lot of those things that could be that one thing to unravel. But I think the turning point really is going to be Sarah Hutchinson. You know, that's the point where the veil got pulled back in a way that nobody could really refute it. I mean, he tried, but then the Secret Service even collaborated with the story, and then other agents came forward, and then other people that were in the room were talking about how delusional his thought process is and intentional his actions were. It's all right there. You know, it's all right there for you to see. Now, are you going to see it or not? You know, I don't know. But justice is supposed to be blind, right?
Right.
So we're going to see if it's stupid.
I hope not. You know, you know what you were saying earlier that the blinders are off so many people and they realized what was going on, which was too late, but they got caught up in the moment. They wanted a brand new United States of America, the way they wanted to see it. And now they're finding out that why I lost my job, I lost my family, I lost my house. And so a lot of them started thinking, right, you know, the old saying goes, you want to get to somebody, hit them in the pocketbooks. So with them losing their job and everything, they got hit in the pocketbooks. Well, will they be rehireable again anywhere else? It's hard to say, because if they got arrested, the record will show right there. And it's a federal crime. So it isn't like a misdemeanor pushed up under the rug. It's federal. So here you are stuck with this federal crime for life. You see, they got to look ahead of the game. Okay, now what I'm going to do. And so the same thing. Okay, let me back up a little bit. I want to back up to say, I watch them all saying, do you want the government to tell you what to do? You want the government to do this for you? There was one person that I watched over the weekend that said, you realize, talking about to Green, you realize you are the government. You telling people don't let the government tell you what to do, but you are the government and you tell them what to do. She got quiet. She couldn't say anything after that because he was right. You are the government. Who's the government? The government is our elected officials. So when you turn around and say, the government can't tell you what to do, but you're the government, so you tell them what to do.
Well, you know, I think a lot of this talk about, you know, the government / the Democratic Party, whatever, is going to come take your freedoms. Well, we're the less free society, or we are a much lesser free society because of the freedoms that we are trying to protect. So because we have pretty much every assault weapon under God covered by the Second Amendment, now we're kind of unfree because people are mentally unsound, like we've been talking about under the previous, you know, shows. and they have too much access. So now you're so free that you're not free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it requires some intelligent controls, which we don't really have in place right now. So somebody needs to tell folks what to do, because unfortunately in this country, without federal intervention, there would have been still some pretty serious encroachments on our freedoms, people of color. I mean, you know, and really a lot of those changes became because of money. A lot of it, yeah, okay, there was a moral denominator that we were pushing for, but let's just be honest, the civil rights legislation, the separate but equal, but which was separate but unequal, a lot of that stuff was broken because of commerce laws, that it was illegal to discriminate based on color in terms of lodging and purchasing food and all that type of stuff. So that's how I think really a lot of this is going to come to fruition. When we can't do the things that we need to do to sustain our economy and enjoy life, that's when we're going to start seeing a lot of these changes happen. And, you know, if you take a look at the fiscal policy and irresponsibility that Trump was having, that illusionary period of where the economy seemed to be doing so much better, is because he, you know, look at what he was doing. He was basically passing a bill to future administrations. Look at the net sum of what he was doing. And it wasn't anything great that he did economically. The hard work is being done now to change the economy around, right? And it's not a quick process, but it wasn't a quick process to get here. But we just got to stop being so short-sighted, I think, in this country in terms of what we think we want right now versus what we need to have happen in the future. Previous generations, I think, were more visionary than what we're being right now as a whole. We're too short-sighted on what we think is the issue versus where we're trying to go. And, you know, I get it. You know, when the prices go up, you know, food goes up, gas goes up, everything goes up. You want the country to find the answer, you know, find the answer, make all this immediate stuff go away. Well, here's the thing. You've allowed irresponsible politicians to get in power and fool us into thinking they're working in our own best interest. What do we think was going to happen eventually? Things are going to get out of control. And that's what happened. Now, to set the course of action back correctly, it's going to be painful. Yes, it's going to be some higher prices. Yes, there's going to be some policies and things that it takes time to set in. But the most important thing is we got to change our mindset on what we're willing to accept. And we, you know, we're so quick to, once we're in a situation, try to think of a quick answer. No, it's a long-term course of action after deciding the mindset that we want. What type of country do we want? Do we want to have a type of country where a person like Trump can take over a whole party and, you know, return to values and less of a democracy or earlier time and call it making America great? Or are we trying to be proactive, move forward with the genius of the people that we have and evolve as a country that we're supposed to be? All we're doing is making democracy a little bit more real. That's really what all this is coming down to, giving everybody equal access and equity. However, that's not what this country was made for. It was
when you said that, when you said that democracy and everything, I go back and listen to some of the news reports, and when they say this is a test, they're still calling it a test after all of these years. And democracy here, the way they had it, is a test. And I said, so when is it going to stop being a test? You know?
Yeah. Well, I don't know when it's going to stop being a test, Ron. That's a good question. Because for a lot of people, the test has failed and it's been failing. It's not, you know, but it's better than what else is out there. And that excuse is better than what other democracies are out there. I hear that to a certain extent, but then again, not really, because as a Black man, we're still dealing with some of the same things we were since almost the inception of this country. And that's really the fight to be equalized citizens. You know, I mean, we have a different reality. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care what stature, whatever. When you pull out on that road and that police car pulls behind you, you got some problems that have gone on in this country from the very beginning. If you watch that show, Who We Are, like I recommended people do, they understand what I'm talking about. The psyche, we went into the psyche of being a person of color in this country. We don't have body autonomy, as one of my colleagues pointed out. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what's going on. We're fighting for our own body autonomy in 2022. You know, we're unsafe when we pull out of here, you know, by our own systems that's supposed to be protecting us. We have to tell our kids different things, how they need to interact with police and all that type of stuff. And it's kind of backwards, right? You know, we shouldn't be doing that in this time, but we are. And we got to talk about the mindsets, the phobias, the fear, and the greed that allows for that system to continue to happen. And we got to own our part of that as well. But that's a whole other show.
But you brought up a point right there. I think you said it to me, greed. That has a lot to do with what's going on right now, because the ones are there that want to pardon, they all prosperous from what happened. They all got that money coming in and everything. So now it's getting ready to cut off. And my personal opinion, if they're guilty of doing anything to mess up democracy in the United States, and they're in Congress or Senate, take away their pension, take away their health care. They don't deserve it after what they did.
Yeah, you know that's never going to happen, man. They've already written those things in the law.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I will say, that if people watch the congressmen and senators, they sure know how to take care of themselves. Boy.
Yeah,
they've been doing fine. They've been fine. They've been getting raises and all kind of stuff. You know, take a look at the senator and congressman package that they have, and wonder if you have that same package from your employer. You know what I'm saying? But it's again what we allow politicians to do. You know, we talk about the politicians, but how did they get to office? You know, they sell you. You know, we got to know when we're being sold a wolf ticket, and you know, and that happens on both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. You know, we're sold a ticket, and I understand some of the plight of the Democratic Party, because you know, if you don't have the votes, you don't have the seats, rather, it's hard for you to do a lot of the things that you want to do, right? And when you have the seats, you can kind of, you know, force your way, you know, to lean in one side or the other. I think you know how the policies are leaning right now in this country, are leaning in large part to the right, you know, with the decision of Roe v. Wade being overturned and other things, you know. But if people don't like that feel, then you got to change it.
Well, when you brought that up, even the Supreme Court to me is tainted now.
Right. Well, that's what I mean by leaning. You know, even the court, the Supreme Court is leaning right, which it should not be. That's supposed to be a non-political vehicle. So we do have somewhat of a constitutional crisis right now, because the Supreme Court, the way it's set up by design, is they're not supposed to be swayed by party, but by stacking so many people that are conservative into the Supreme Court. And by, you know, I was just thinking about this, Ms. Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg. Do you really think the Roe v. would have passed if Ginsburg was on that court? No way in the world. You know, so you know it would have been. Oh my goodness. You know, it'd have been a war in there. You know, but that's where we're at in this country, and the needle goes left and right, but now it's going. It went hard right, and I think this January 6th. You know, and it went hard right in a crazy way. I don't even want to say hard right. It just kind of went right by default, but it went right in a way that was like old school right. Like, you know, back to Brown versus Board of Education right. You know, like, you know, going back to basic rights. And I think when you assault half of humanity's rights, meaning women, that's a dangerous thing. You start talking about those laws about forcing procreation. You know, to me, that sounds a little bit like slavery, right? That sounds a little bit like servitude, involuntary. Like we're gonna tell you what you have to do, how you have to do it. And I get, you know, why some of the pro-lifers say that, you know, abortion shouldn't be birth control, but you know what? who does that? You know what I'm saying? Like who actually really uses it for that, number one. And two, if a woman decides that she's not going to bring a child to term, you can't force that, you know, because if she decides to do something about that, you can then even lose both lives. You know, so that's the part that blows my mind when you say you're pro-life, but yet you're risking the life of the parent and the unborn. How are you pro-life? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's just a logic. If you think through a lot of the things that we talk about and we call, we deem, do those things really match? You know, are we really pushing for what we say we're pushing for? All those gun rights lobbyists. Are you really pushing for what you think you want? You want more freedom, but the thing you're pushing for is enslaving us more.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just got to logically think through what's going on and see it for what it is and see when are we going to wake up? That's what I got out of the January 6th committee hearings yesterday. The two men that woke up, I commend them, number one, for coming forward and be able to stand to be in that spotlight nationally and admit that they were in a delusional state. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people weren't in a delusional state. We saw this thing exactly for what it was. And we were trying to tell people, but I'll be honest, I got to a point where I got tired of telling people that the lights are on or the lights are off. You know, you should have been able to see it. And if you're not seeing something because you don't want to see it, it don't matter what I say.
That's true.
You know, because you want to see it a certain way. So that's the question. Is America going to see it the way they're supposed to see it? Or are they going to see it the way they want to see it? And that's the $1 million question, because, you know, it's out there.
Yeah. What I want to swing to now is the way things were set up. It even went down to local levels to vote certain people in office, to do certain things, to help overturn stuff, as they say. But what boggles the mind is, I think we talked about this one time before, is they want to replace, in some of these history books, they want to replace slavery with involuntary, if I'm right. So they don't want to mention the word slavery in there. Like, we came over here voluntary. We volunteered to come over here. So they're not teaching the right history. If you want to teach history, teach it right for what really happened. So changing words around, and I'm gonna be honest, they say we don't want our white kids to feel guilty on what happened. If you teach the truth, what's in there, they have no business feeling guilty. They're trying to cover up something that's been out for a long time. Like I said, the horse is out the barn. You know, come on now. Changing words in the history book is not going to change the mindset of everybody who knows what the history is. Now, when I was coming up in high school, we had Black history, where we were taught Black history. It doesn't even exist anymore nowadays. It's just plain history the way they wrote it.
Well, you know, I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. I'm one of the co-chairs for the Kappa League program here and one of the advisors. And I'm gonna tell you right now, we teach critical race theory because critical race theory, as it's defined by certain folks, is the truth, right? I mean, we tell the whole truth, not just what's biased. And I think anything that's biased, I mean, lynchings happen. Exploitation happened. Our legal system has been unfair to us over the years. These are realities. There are still things that we have been seeking since slavery and have not gotten, right? And those are realities. So by pointing out reality and by putting out truths are the only way that we're going to ever make real change in the country. So we have to understand where we came from and how things were, and not just in a metaphorical way, but in a real way. We need to understand the tricks and the things that were done to us before to make sure they don't happen again. And if we don't understand those things, the fact that my grandparents broke the red line in Grand Rapids, Michigan with some other great community leaders, you know, and understanding your history, understanding the fight and the things that we had to go through before, how are we ever going to be able to navigate the future? You know, like if you think about it, if you were out in a ship in the ocean and you went through a storm and you didn't recognize how you went through that storm, learn the techniques you use, know the strategies you use. Well, guess what? If you don't learn that, the next time that storm comes, you're going to be deficient and possibly sink on something that you knew just previously and something you had mastered. So we had some successes in the past. We also had some failures in the past, right?
Yeah.
But how do we navigate the future? We got to be aware of what the real situation is, where the deficiencies came from, and more importantly, the mindset that it creates. What's the mindset? You know, what is generational helplessness? What is that? You know, what's now we're starting to understand that trauma can actually possibly pass down in DNA, right? So what can be done? And there's a lot of things that can be done, but the first thing is you have to get your mind right, right? So that you understand and are aware of what's going on, so that any of these social media outlets, which are, you know, a joke in a lot of senses in terms of factual information.
Yeah.
We have to understand who we are and where we're trying to go, and we have to put the work in. You know, everything isn't going to be, all knowledge isn't going to be packaged neatly and given to you on your Facebook, social media, Twitter. Or you're gonna have to get in and dig and research, think it through, understand the context of society and history. And that's why I think they're attacking. They're attacking the history so you can attack the narrative. They're kind of lightening it up so that people aren't so fired up. See, what's happened is this whole thing about being woke and all that. No, these people that are woke are creating a different narrative. They're creating a narrative that's not easily controlled. So that's why there's opposition against it, is because it challenges the narrative or the mindset of the country that's already being challenged by whatever they're fearful of, by whatever they're told to be scared of. So it just seems like more things to be scared of. More things are going to change the status quo. Well, those of us that are living under the status quo, that understand the oppression of it, we're not, you know, we're waking up to it. We're telling people, no, it's okay. Black lives, you know, these people say, well, Black Lives Matter is racist. How can it be racist? What is racism? Racism, you know, it's very hard to have a Black person who's a racist, right? Because how do we have, racism actually implies we have the ability to suppress your freedom and to limit your movement in society. That's not a Black person. That's what happens to Black people of color, right? So understand prejudice. Now we can be prejudiced, but I think a lot of Black folk have a reason to be prejudiced in this country, right? Look at our history. And that's why they keep trying to change our history, because when you look at our history, it's some valid frustration there. There's some valid things that have to be addressed. And I'm not saying that everything that needs to be addressed is outside of our community. We got some things addressed from within our community, but we got some things definitely that need to be addressed from outside of our country, or outside of our community. And we have a right to speak to those things, right? And that's okay, right? And that's okay that we speak to them, and be glad that we're speaking to them. You know, be glad that we're communicating those things and not just acting on it like some other folks. And, you know, I think since we're talking about people acting on stuff, we're going to have to look at this domestic terrorism. What is it? And why is it treated differently? Why is it that people have been given a pass on doing things like going up to the Capitol and acting a complete fool and being allowed to do things when you know other demographics wouldn't be able to do that? This whole duality of America is going to have to be dealt with, where rights are protected, even the right to almost tear down the system, whereas other folks don't even have the right to damn near exist.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're going to have to talk about that equity, right? And it's out there. It's out there. That's, you know, so we got to get educated, understand the history for that actually to happen. And I think that's where the opposition comes from. As long as we're separated, as long as we don't understand each other's perspective, that's how a lot of this stuff, these large corporations continue to make money, continue to play us, and it continues to weaken our democracy. We need to talk to each other and understand each other, understand each other's plight, and get past the fears and phobias and the greed, and I think we'll be all right. But that's the roadmap, you know what I'm saying? But we've got to get past a lot of stuff. We got a lot of work to do. But I think the January 6th Commission is showing how a lot of people were played, thinking that somebody was working to their best interests. It can't be any more obvious for somebody whipping up a crowd to go and do something and then sitting back and watching all the, actually wanting to go and have a front row seat to what, you know, he had created.
Yeah. Which brings on what
they saw.
Yeah, which brings on to this point right here. You touched it several times. Why is it they use fear to shake their base to get going? I don't get it. They won't talk the truth, but they're talking about they're trying to take this way, trying to take this way. Why does one party always use fear to get what they want? Can you explain why they do that, sir?
Yeah, I can do it real quickly in one word, or actually two words. It's effective. It's been historically effective. It's been effective in Trump's campaign. It's the glue that holds all his whole constituency together. Fear that there's an enemy, that somebody's going to come over and take over your country, you know, make the country great again. Who are those things? Who are those people, right? Who actually use rhetoric like that? Look through history and see who it is that use fear as a main means to, you know, motivate the masses. And even in our history, you know, through the civil rights movement and before, listen to the Bull Connors and all the white supremacists that use fear and fear mongering to basically keep people separated and also to economically exploit folks. That's the whole concept of redlining, right? Back, if you watch that show, We Are One, you'll see a perfect example of it. Speaks a part of my family's history, where you don't allow certain people to buy out of a certain geographical area, and the real estate market, the realtors are benefiting from that, right?
Yeah.
They were able to manipulate the market and try to keep people from, you know, moving freely to this country. So it's right there, man. I mean, fear is effective because, and these politicians are playing off of those fears night and day. Remember 9/11 when we were being attacked? It was almost like the fear shifted for a minute, because all of a sudden, I remember when I was in, I'll never forget, I was in Florida at that time, and it was kind of a central Florida, and there was some, you know, people understand that Florida is a part of the South, right? And outside of like Disneyland and those commercial areas, you see how much a part of the South it is. A lot of the white folk don't really talk to a lot of black folk, and it's going to be very segregated, you know. And the folks that don't, they usually just don't talk to you at all. They make it very clear that they don't want to talk to you, and that's cool. But it's not cool, but it's cool because at least I understand who you are. Yeah. When 9/11 happened, if you had a cell phone, if you had anything, everybody was talking to everybody. Hey, is everything okay? Are we good? Are we good? Wait a minute. It wasn't no we a second ago.
Yeah.
Now, are we good? Right? Because now there's another enemy that ain't playing, that's trying to take us out. So the mindset shifted, right? Well, I don't know if people really think about it, but there's always an enemy that's trying to take us out. And if we don't understand, why do we have to be in a situation where we see the effects of that enemy versus understanding that there's always could be an enemy outside of these doors, and we better need to figure out how to work together before we're in a crisis. It's always worse to figure out how to work together when you're in a crisis. So while we're so fragmented and different in understanding, that's the problem. Yeah. If a crisis jumps off, which a lot of people, and I think I agree with one of those keepers, that we do have a potential problem brewing in this country. If things don't go the way that certain people feel it should go in 2024, I'm concerned. I have to be honest. I'm concerned on what what is going to happen in our country, and at what point some of these powder kegs are going to go off, because I think we're seeing some of the potential problems that can happen with these active shooter situations. We got all these people out here that are disenfranchised, some of them delusional about what happened with this big lie. It's taking a lot for a lot of people to wake up. So what's going to happen when people are going to be so easily lied to and still choose to believe it? What are they going to do when their options dry up? If you know, Trump and a whole bunch of other people get indicted, then what? You know, is that going to be the catalyst to cause, you know, more problems? I hope not, but it is a concern.
But see, I was always taught, my mom will always let us know, before you open up your mouth, get the facts. Get the facts. Now, they're not relying on facts anymore. They're relying on talking notes. This is what we're going to talk about. I have never seen so many talking notes. And when you turn around and ask them a question, they go back to the talking notes, which remind me of when you get a telemarketer that calls you, you ask them a question, you throw them off script, they'll put you on hold and come back and ask you the same freaking question over again. I said, no, you know, talking points had took over political. We're only going to talk about this today. That's it, no matter what. That needs to go away. I don't like talking points. I never liked it, because remember, we hired you, we voted you in to represent us, not you represent your party. This is what y'all going to talk about. That's no. See, like you said, the mindset. You can't be elected to office and your party comes and tell you, all we're going to do is talk about this today. Forget about healthcare. Forget about that. We're talking about this only. That defeats the purpose of us putting them in office.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that what we've seen for a lot of times is people that come up with talking points to get the people fired up, but they're really not talking about anything substantive to what we need. So we've got a situation where people feel disenfranchised from government on both sides, because everybody's focused on the talking points, and the people that are getting the most focus are the big organizations, you know, obviously can pay the most money, right? So to me, a politician now seems to be, if I can keep you emotionally engaged, but not give you anything, right? I can keep you fired up, make you feel like I'm doing something in your best interest. But really, when you think about your day-to-day life and the things that you really are concerned about, very little gets addressed, right? And that's happening on both sides. That's because our system of government is pretty much broken in terms of policies and legislation that really affect our futures. We've been pushing for a lot of the same things, right? We've been pushing for, well, it depends on what you're interested in, but there were some good things that were asked for in the last election. You know, reduction in school loans, you know, reparation conversation came up. You know, all that stuff, I guess, evaporated. Like, you know, all this stuff evaporates. You know, that's the stuff that we get you in the office, but then it gets to Washington. Once it gets the opportunity, then all of a sudden we can't get no school loan relief, but things jump off in Ukraine and we send $6.5 trillion over there. I get it. I understand. You're saying that democracy is under attack. But guess what? Democracy is under attack right here in the United States, for people trying to get access to the American dream still at this point in 2022, trying to get access to the American dream. And it's not accessible for a lot of folks for a variety of reasons that I'm more than happy that we could talk about on this show. But, you know, the judicial system was one of them. Economic opportunities are another. You know, the other host, co-host, Sandra, talks about her story, right? That was powerful. You know, people that achieve a certain level of success and what happens to them, how they're attacked in this country.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, we gotta start talking about this narrative, you know, of how these things happen, what you have to do to be successful in this country, and also importantly, the mindset that it creates for you to have to do that. to go through that and to continue have to go through that. Why are we so polarized? Is because we're seeing things just from our perspective and not thinking about the other person's perspective and who's really at fault for both perspectives is ineffective politicians that get up to DC or get up to higher levels of government and can't really affect what we want. It's just interesting to me. It's like a magic trick. We put you up there to do something. You get up there and you can't do nothing. we go through. Hey, you tell us what we want to hear. Do all this stuff. We're gonna get you up there. Hey, I can't do nothing.
Yeah, you sort of just you brought up a point that how can we send that money to Ukraine? Like you said, I get it too, but we got problems here in this country. If we could send multi-billion dollars to Ukraine to help them out, how come we can't send that money here? See, they voted right away for that, but they can't vote simple stuff here in the United States that keep us all together. They'll give that money to another country that won't think about their own.
And again, I'm not taking anything from the horrific situation in Ukraine. They do deserve help. But listen, we got to help ourselves just as much, and if not more so, than helping other people outside of this country. We got some people that have been patriots to this country and deserve retribution and know how to do things with what we should have been given a long time ago. Now, I know that people don't want to hear that. I know that people don't understand that things need to be adjusted. But one of the first things we need to do is understand, before we get even the monetary retribution, which I think we're owed, we got to get our mind right. We got to understand the damage that was done to us and still being done to us in terms of our own self-esteem, mindset, and our own direction, and understanding where we're at individually and as a group, and how to move forward. And that's something we can do. That's one thing we can start doing with social media, is start having conversations about where we want to move our communities and use these mediums to actually start doing that. Instead of tearing each other down, talking about each other, doing stupid stuff and stupid challenges, why don't we flip that paradigm and start doing some constructive challenges? Talk about constructive things. I was watching a man who he used his whole life savings, was creating greenhouses so that people had access to, good, healthy food in urban communities. Why can't we start pushing some of those narratives, taking money and start making those changes that we can make to help build instead of tearing down? I know tearing down sales. I know tearing down is more popular. But when are we going to start understanding that that's part of the problem? We have all these platforms, but what are we doing with them?
Yeah.
I appreciate you for using your platform to make a difference, to reach out to folks, to try to change and empower the community. We need more of that. We need more of that to go viral. It's not the popular thing as negativity. Negativity sells, fear sells, but it also destroys. And then we wonder why things are the way they are. Well, how are we using the tools that we have? And that starts at home. I monitor what my daughter does, how much time she's on something, what she's doing while she's on that thing that she's on, right? And I highly recommend that for anybody. If you do have your child that has a cell phone, you got to limit it, and you got to be like the CIA and the FBI.
Yeah.
And if you're not, trust me, there's some stuff on there that's going to blow your mind.
We were talking about that the other day. How the kids learn how to use emojis to send signals. Emojis. Now, these kids are smart. They're doing things like that, but you tell them to do their homework, they don't want to do it, but they know how to come up with stuff like this. They're
Listen,
always
man.
coming up. You're always coming up with things. And I remember when my kids was growing up, they try to throw something on me. I said, "It's been done." I tried that when I was young. Like for instance,
Mhm.
my oldest one decided to take the lawnmower, turn it upside down, and when he did that, all the oil went up in there, and it wouldn't crank for him to cut the backyard. I said, "Okay."
Mhm.
I watched him do it. So about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I went and cranked up the lawnmower. I said, "You cut the backyard now. It's hot outside. You should have thought about that 8 o'clock in the morning. You turn it upside down."
Mhm.
You
Yeah, I
know,
bet he won't do that again.
no, he didn't do it again. But like you said, it's things you need to look out for your kids. It's harder for them nowadays because everything is at their fingertips. Everything. You tell them to go to your room, thanks. I got a TV, I got a video game. You tell them to go outside. Oh, it's a different story. Like you torture them to go outside and play like we used to. Things have
Well,
changed.
they've changed, and in your room on those electronic devices, not only is it not necessarily a punishment, but there's a whole world that's being created on the social media. There's a whole world that's being created on these online games, and I dare say it's very far from reality, right? Or a reality that we are effective, or
Mhm.
or realistic, because I don't know, there are a lot of jobs and stuff to do online interviews now, but most part you still got to be face to face at some point in most jobs, or a lot of jobs. And if you don't have those people skills, you don't know how to talk to somebody face to face. If you don't have those social skills, you're going to struggle. You're really
Yeah.
going to struggle. And that's where I think it's going to be a challenge for this generation, and earlier, younger, and just well, this generation is essentially, they're going to struggle if they don't have those social skills down. We still have to know how to communicate with each other, respect each other, and not be so self-interested. And that's where a lot of these video games come up short, with the socialization piece.
Yeah. One question I want to ask you is I noticed that sports, because my grandson played, I played, everybody was one person on that team, no matter what color you were. Everybody had each other back. So, the question I'm going to want to ask you: why is it in sports, majority of the time, they come together as a team and they work together as a team, but then that philosophy is not out there for all of us to come together as a team? Am I making sense?
Yeah. In terms of, if I understand what you're asking, why is it that, in organized sports, we're given the direction, or the objective of working together, whereas in real life, we're not just real life, but I guess outside of sports or organized sports, we don't adopt that mindset. Is that what you're asking? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think that I don't know if it's they're not different teams. I think there are different teams. Whether they want them to be teams or not, there are teams just like in sports, in outside of sports and outside of organized, sports and whatnot. We've got people that are delusional, and that's a team. And we got people that try to live in reality and try to be educated, and that's a team. And then we got people that are somewhere in the middle. They're delusional, they kind of care, and then they don't, and they operate within their they operate within their own circles on things like social media, and they basically spin each other with, sometimes without facts, without thinking about other perspectives, into like a mindset of this is reality. Well, if two people, you ever heard that expression, the blind leading the blind?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got whole subsections of blind people leading the blind. And we need to talk to those other folks to get those other perspectives, so they can see, number one, how wacky and way off their perspective is, or how wacky and out of perspective your perspective is to reality. And as long as we keep talking to each other and not talking to other people that have differing views than us, then we're going to kind of have these ivory towers of information going, wow, how can they continue to think like that? And we're doing the same thing within our ivory tower. Wow, how can they continue to think like that? When we got to communicate with each other, because we're all really just on one team, but we don't view each other on the same team, because to be on a team, catch this, you got to be going toward the same goal of winning. You got to see somebody as similar as you. And right now, we got people in the United States that see other people as them and see people that think just like you as us's. And that's all under the same umbrella, because other people are looking at us as a them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we gotta figure this, we gotta figure out what we are and where we're trying to go. That's why I like that show, Who We Are. Who are we in this country has been always a dual-minded society. You've always had a certain people that were protected, entitled, and get away with just about everything. And then that same system exploits other folks. And it's out there now. It's obvious what's going on. We're talking about it. But now we need to talk about how we can change it, how we need to change it. Because the reality is, until you value and uplift all of your people, you're going to miss so much of the answer and the talent and the potential that your country could be. These countries that are kicking our butts in education and all that, they don't have the same type of racial issues and hangups and problems that we do. So they're able to focus on their economies and their people evolving a certain way. We're still caught in fighting with each other over equal rights or access or, you know, mindset issues. And really, look, if you're an American, you should have what you need to at least understand and pursue your version of the American dream.
Yeah.
And then you talk about that version and you know, fight for that version. But we've been locked out in a lot of ways, and we're getting access. We're getting more access economically. We're getting more access, you know, I'd say somewhat politically at this point, but there's a pushback, and that's what we're seeing. So hopefully we're gonna push in the right direction at some point, and we got to get some folks out of there. We got to get that old status quo oppressive mindset out, so that the new generation can come in and show its insight and vision. And we got to help that keep coupled with morality, you know, and social skills, and understanding that we're not, even though we're talking on computers right now, there's a person on the other side of that has the same hopes and dreams and visions for their life that you have. And we need to be working on that together. And that's what makes us great.
Very well put, Joseph Lee. This is Joseph Lee with us on WSAN Radio. Boy, that hour went by quick.
Always
cover a lot of things, and your insight, I tell you, it's right on point. So we have Joseph Lee with us every Tuesday. This segment was recorded because of issues. I'm out of town, but you know what? We'll be back Monday live again, and we'll be back on Wednesday to check out Joseph and see what's going to happen between now and next Wednesday, and hopefully there'll be some shed on light what's going on in this country, what's going on with people, what's going on in San Antonio. So that's the next topic I want to hit on is San Antonio. We'll talk off air in a couple of days. I'll let you know my feelings about some things that's going on here. So Joseph, we appreciate you coming on. You take care of yourself, and just be real, brother. Be real.
Always. And you know, thanks for having me, and you stay safe as well.
All right. Thank you.
All
right. Bye.